War for the Planet of the Apes is the third addition to this trilogy. It's directed and written by Matt Reeves. It stars Andy Serkis, Woody Harrelson, Steve Zahn, and Ryan Miller. So, War for the Planet of the Apes begins where Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, concluded. Caesar is dealing with the ominous threat that his whole race, that includes his family and basically everything he owned, is going to be squandered by the human threat that demonized him throughout the whole narrative of the last film. And they want to get out of the woods. They want to live a languid lifestyle, free of harm and all that. But as the first few minutes unfold, that realization is coming to an end very quickly. A tribe of soldiers organized by the Colonel, played by Woody Harrelson, attacks their resident, and the Caesar gets a hold of them and sends them back, shows them mercy, but informs them to send a message to the Colonel that this is my sign of mercy, don't come back, it'll be all cool. But the Colonel does come back with a few other men, and he wants to send his own message that he doesn't really care at all. And in doing so, he kills Caesar's wife and oldest son. And this strikes a strong vendetta against the Colonel specifically. And this, sparks the whole narrative of War for the Planet of the Apes. So I think it's, I suppose I could begin with discussing Woody Harrelson's performance. I think it's pertinent to the core of this film's narrative. He is essentially the foil to Caesar, and the narrative is really surgical in presenting that fact. Woody Harrelson, holsters that impregnable, presence that a villainous figure needs, as well as, the similarities are presented in a very informative and, nuanced way that really paint a very fleshed out narrative, or, visual rather, for the large scale, conflict behind the scenes. The flu that's there's a flu that's as well, that's being an ominous, demonizing presence within Woody Harrelson's life, because it's threatening to squander the whole human race, and he had to, this is a minor spoiler, he had to kill his son, who was infected by this virus. So, as you can see just by that, it's a huge, sentimental, sensible, presence to his character, and really you get a sense of his perspective, which is important in developing a villainous character. And seeing the dueling personalities and performances really was enjoyable. The CGI is impeccable as expected with these films, and the motion capture as well. And then Andy Serkis, he doesn't really need a word to be spoken. He garners attention just by being on the screen. That's based on his past work and all his animated icon figures now. So with that, he can do like nuanced things that you really are fleshing out this character even more. He continues to grow throughout this series up until the very end, and it seems he's still learning at the conclusion of this film. And I like to bring up that the predated Planet of the Apes film that I just witnessed, And if you guys have a good memory of it, it's really nice because it's almost like being a big Star Wars fan and seeing Rogue One, tying nicely into A New Hope. And it was really enjoyable and neat as a film fan to see that and witness, the thought process of what they had to, go through the beginning and little tie-ins throughout, to see it come into, fruition finally. It was really neat. I'm not a big series guy. I haven't seen all the series episodes, but I've seen the main film, and that was really neat. But this film, I would say, is the most sensual blockbuster I've seen in recent memory. It's fueled by a rich core, as you can tell. That's really set up, it seems, even by the inchoate narrative inception of this whole series. And Caesar is now an icon, as we mentioned. At least for me, he is. For animated leads, he's really developed really well, and at the very end, the visuals are simply fantastic, and it really accentuates his almost Clint Eastwood type stare into the distance. It's really entertaining, and the narrative really runs through him, and Reeves does something beautiful. He resists the urge to leave Caesar's point of view. Once we meet the Colonel, most war films would like to go back and forth, and that can be a nuisance at times. And this subverts that whole expectation, and I really enjoyed that aspect of seeing Caesar, because he understands, Matt Reeves does, that he is the empathetic figure that we need to develop this narrative in an entertaining and suitable way. And every relationship in Caesar's life is a tempestuous one. It's really fueled by sensibilities, and this is a very critical point in mankind and his race, and everything is just accentuated very well. And even better, this film doesn't really come off as melodramatic as you would expect it to be, with all this sensibility, talk and visual aspect. It really does it in a very nuanced way, and the rich score really surreptitiously develops this narrative along. It's riveting, and it's beautiful at times. It matches the tone perfectly. The mesmerizing visuals, the Kibo mindset really demonizes Caesar, and you can really feel that. But the visuals filters, the flood of, opulent emotions, the rich feeling that run bleak and blissful at times, and sometimes both. It, perfectly does this. And there's even visual homages to Apocalypse Now, which I just watched recently as well. And there's narrative cues from the beginning that you're just reminiscing in your head, and just when you're about to see this as almost a copycat, there's a quote on the wall that says "Ape Apocalypse Now," which is very meta, and I enjoyed that. But the title could obscure people a little bit. It's not really a war film. It's a the title of the film is really surreptitiously played as it's really not indicative of the, popcorn stuffing flick that you would expect it to be. It's really an introspective character piece with a larger backdrop conflict. Um, and to conclude this whole thing, for all the film's affability, the performances of Amaya Miller, um, the she's playing a very key role in not only threading a thread line to the Planet of the Apes, the film, but a core sensibility for Caesar's character, to bring him back to base, bring him back to Earth um, at times, and she does exceptional. She doesn't say a word, but her presence on screen is enough. And I think this is a very well thought out, thought provoking, both visually and narratively. Uh, I think this leaves a good taste in your mouth for not only the series but Caesar. And I think you guys should check it out. I'm going to give it a B plus.